Yeah, and with us being a huge tourist destination, one of the big pillars of our economy, I mean, what's any word yet on the street in terms of where the numbers are? Uh, any signs of recovery, or are businesses even able to plan at this point for that recovery?
Right now, I'd say they really can't plan, or any planning they're doing is based on assumptions and not on facts. Um, I'm on the board of directors for the Norfolk Convention and Visitors Bureau, and we look at STR all the time and see what the hotel occupancy rates are like. And it got very, very low at the height of the pandemic, and it is now slowly starting to come up, but it's going to take a while. And we are advertising very heavily with the city of Virginia Beach to bring people back to the Hampton Roads area. So it's an ongoing situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's definitely been a lot of. You don't have to look very far to see the negative things that has affected businesses, but I think on one positive side, at least from my point of view, is it seems like as a region, it's something that everyone has talked about that we have to think more regionally. Uh, and it does, at least from my point of view, seem like that we have come together more so now than ever before. Do you see the same thing from your point of view?
I would certainly say that. I've seen more cooperation among cities and counties than I have in the past. Economic development directors are actively engaged with one another, and they're doing everything they can to make everything work around here. So it's very, very good. The chambers of commerce have gotten together and are cooperating very, very strongly. There's a new mindset of, we either hang separately or we hang together.
There you go. One thing that's interesting because of your travels, if you really think about it, one thing that someone would say from a regional perspective is that each of the 10 cities, 6 counties, and 1 town in that encompass Hampton Roads, the region, or the 757, depending on who you talk to, I guess, on that one, the
Yeah.
hashtag the 757, is that each one is kind of its own little micro destination. It is its own kind of like different place, which is kind of similar to what you were talking about from a travel perspective. So then I remember hearing you say that the closest thing ever to COVID, Corona, whatever we're calling it today, is that something from Franklin. Now, was that the Franklin paper mill closing, or was that the river disaster?
That was the flooding of the Blackwater River into downtown Franklin.
And that was what, 20 years ago?
1999.
Okay, and so paint the picture. Go back to memory lane. Like, what happened then?
Well, we experienced 2 hurricanes, one right after the other. The first one came in and totally saturated the ground, so the water had nowhere to go. Hurricane Floyd came rolling in, and the water just could not go anywhere. Therefore, it rose, and downtown Franklin was completely flooded out, I think, to a height of 9 or 10 feet of standing water. And a lot of it, there was oil in the water, there was sewage in the water. It was not a pretty sight, to say the least. So the town basically had to strip everything out. They took all the buildings down to the studs. They had to pressure wash it and clean everything. And then they slowly, but very, very purposely rebuilt the town. And it was quite successful. Now, the reason for the success was the city leadership and the state and the feds through the SBA were very, very proactive and leaning forward in devising a strategy to help the town survive. They had a very dynamic city manager. They had a very dynamic mayor who kept everybody focused on the ball. The other thing that saved them was the fact that the majority of their customers were not flooded out. And so people had the ability to come back into town and spend money and buy the goods and services that the town had to offer. So in that regards, it worked out well. The physical destruction was horrific. The psychological destruction was not that bad. With the COVID, it's just the complete 180. The physical destruction is virtually non-existent. But the psychological damage to employers, employees, and customers is staggering.
Is there something from Franklin 21 years ago that you looked back on and really just used in your arsenal of saying, okay, this is how we went through disaster then, and I think this strategy worked really well from then, and it's something that one could use for, Q2 of 2020 in coronavirus?
The biggest is access to capital. Back in the day, they didn't have the Paycheck Protection Program, so small business owners were limited to what they got from their insurance companies and what they got from their economic injury disaster loan, if they received an economic injury disaster loan. Now with the Paycheck Protection Program, people had have additional money to ensure their survivability. So that was one thing that is definitely plays to the advantage today than we didn't have back then.